Non-Florida residents would have to file probate in the state of Florida? Why? We'll talk about that right after this. Hello and welcome. Today's video is why would a non-Florida resident have to file for probate in the state of Florida? So, as you can imagine, being in South Florida, a lot of people are not actually from South Florida. Shocker, right? Some people choose not to have Florida as their primary residence. Most people, well, I won't say most, but a lot of people do for the tax advantage. You know, the state of Florida doesn't have a state income tax, so a lot of times people will become a resident of the state of Florida. Even if they have a house in another state, they'll have to be here 6 months and 1 day in order to qualify, and that allows them to be a resident of the state of Florida. It also allows them to homestead their house, which is a huge deal for avoiding probate, protecting the house as an asset from creditors. So there are some definite advantages to being a resident of the state of Florida, other than our hot, balmy summer weather. But there are people that are residents of other places. I just saw a case today where the residents are actually from England, and they have a property in Boynton Beach. It's not homesteaded, and yet it's here in the state of Florida. So when somebody passes away, the courts always go by where they're a resident of. It doesn't really matter where they pass away. They could pass away in Tibet or India or wherever, but it's where they're considered a resident. So if somebody is not in the state of Florida as a resident, say they own a house but they rent it out, or they are only here a little bit, or they just don't want to be a resident of the state of Florida. In the particular case I saw today, they were from England. So I don't know why they didn't have residency here, but when they're going through probate, they have to go through probate because they own property in the state of Florida. So it doesn't really matter where their residency is. If they own property in the state of Florida, it has to go through a Florida probate process. Here it's called ancillary probate, and ancillary is always going to be that there was a probate case filed somewhere else, and this is kind of attached to it. So they'll allow the probate court in, say, New Jersey to do their thing, but they'll still have to go through a probate, ancillary probate here in the state of Florida because there is property. So one of the bad things about ancillary probate in the state of Florida is because they're not a resident, it means the house is not homesteaded, which means it definitely has to go through probate, and it'll cost them more money than if it was homesteaded property and if they're a resident. So in this case, the couple was from England. I don't know if they were considered a resident of any other place, but they were definitely not considered a resident of Florida. Their house was not homesteaded, and they will have to file probate here in the state of Florida because the threshold for filing for formal administration probate here in the state of Florida is $75,000, and their place is worth way more than that. So they will have to file probate here in the state of Florida. It doesn't matter where they're from, doesn't matter where their residency is, doesn't matter where they passed away. They owned property here in the state of Florida, and it has to go through our Florida probate process. So that's it for this week's video. I hope it didn't come across harsh, but the state of Florida has its rules and regulations, and they're set up for a reason. Probably most likely to put money through the court system here. You can't just inherit property and walk away, especially here in the state of Florida. We don't have a state income tax, and there's not an inheritance tax here in the state of Florida. But if the house is not homesteaded, it will have to go through the Florida probate process, and there will have to be money spent. So unfortunately, that's the bad news about ancillary or probate for non-Florida residents. I hope you found this video to be helpful and informative, and as always, I'm here to help you. Look forward to seeing you next week. Be careful and stay safe. Bye-bye.